Good morning and welcome to this edition of San Diego People. I'm Lauren Finney. The tax filing season has officially begun. The IRS is now accepting and processing federal tax returns for the 2019 tax year. The tax forms can seem daunting and confusing, but in an effort to simplify the process, the IRS has overhauled the federal income withholding form. KUSI's Elizabeth Alvarez has what you need to know about the new W-4.
For the first time in years, the IRS updated the Federal Income Withholding Form, or W-4. The change reflects the new tax code Congress approved in 2017. The new form has been divided into 5 steps, and you can skip questions that don't apply to your situation. One major change is that it took away allowances because the new tax law eliminated personal exemptions. Instead, the form directly asks you how many children and dependents you have, and you have to multiply that number by the amount of the federal tax credit. It also simplified the section about other income. Now you just have to check a box if you work 2 jobs or if you have a spouse who works. You only need to fill out a W form if you started a new job in 2020. But tax specialists encourage workers to review their withholdings each year. If too little is deducted, you may get a smaller refund or possibly owe money at tax time. If too much is deducted, you might get a fat check at tax time. But you're basically giving the government a no-interest loan throughout the year. Elizabeth Alvarez, KUSI News.
Well, a W-4 is not the only change you could see on this tax filing year. So here to tell us more about filing your taxes is Rafael Tolino from the Internal Revenue Service. Good morning, Rafael.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Great to have you here because this is, that dreaded time of year.
We're just starting.
I know you hear
There's plenty of time.
I know you hear that. Yeah, there is time. That's why we're really letting everybody know how best to be prepared.
Right.
And there are some changes, which is good for people to know about. I know we were just talking about the W-4, and you want to talk about how it's based on your household income.
Right. It used to be number of exemptions. You would check 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Now, basically, as that story said, and as was elaborated there, it's basically now more on household income, because you don't want to have too much over withheld or under withheld. And based on the new law that was passed in December 2 years ago that really fundamentally changed how we do taxes, and we'll discuss it a little bit, you really want to kind of bring the taxes you pay closer to what you owe. And in previous years, before the law changed so much, a lot of folks had a little bit of a pattern because it was kind of the same for the most part. Congress would enact legislation that would bring back some extenders, some deductions and credits every year for, kind of move it forward, this, that, and the other. But this is a really big fundamental change. So this form, W-4, reflects that. And at the same time, using that and what we have as a withholding estimator on irs.gov, based on your situation, these tools, the new law, you want to see where you are because things change so much, so it kind of shook the apple cart up a little bit, and it's not quite the same as it used to be. And the new W-4 form, in place for new employers or employees, they have to use this form beginning here in 2020 as opposed to the old form, and I hope all that kind of made sense.
Yeah. And a lot of that changes with the itemized deductions. Like that used to be the way to do things, is kind of itemize everything out, and it seemed like for a lot of families it's now better to take the standard.
Yeah, because it was raised. It was actually almost doubled. So this year for single it's $12,200. I believe it's double that, so $24,400 for married filing joint. So if you're itemized on a Schedule A, and that includes charitable contributions, your state and local taxes such as your mortgage and mortgage interest and all that kind of a thing, miscellaneous expenses of certain ones, those went away, some went away. Unreimbursed, for example, went away in the new law. Bottom line is that number you put on a Schedule A, if it's greater than the standard, you take it. If the standard is greater, you take that because you want to lower the taxes you pay, and you're using one or the other. Now, with the increase of the standard deduction, a lot of folks are taking the standard instead and not having to work on a Schedule A.
Which does make things a little bit easier.
Makes it a little bit easier, but no matter what it is, you want to pay as little tax as you can, legally, of course, and you want to take the bigger number.
None of us like giving the government an interest-free loan, as we put it.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about the new Form 1040 SR alternative for seniors available, and what that means for seniors, what they should be looking
It's a brand
into.
new form. It just simplifies things a little bit. Simplifies things a little bit. It's for 65 and older, more or less. And when you're a senior citizen, you generally have a situation that's a little bit different, just in terms of your as a whole. And this form is there for you to make it more easy, if you will, or convenient to fill out a tax form.
You talk a lot about having that professional tax person. You want to make sure that you do that. If some people are kind of in this boat of, my tax person retired, I don't know where to go, I don't want to use one of those go to separate places. You always advise people to go to IRS.gov.
It's a really good point. You want to choose wisely when you choose somebody. And chances are, for the most part, 99 or 98, whatever the number might be, are doing good, honest, accurate returns. It's some of the bad apples out there that'll prepare a return for you, and you're left with it because once you sign it, you're responsible for the information on it, no matter who prepares it. So you want to choose wisely, as you say. The IRS website, irs.gov, has a directory of preparers, CPAs, EAs, tax attorneys, so you can check that out. We have lots of tips on how to choose one. So word of mouth, interview them, make sure you know what they're about. I mean, it's an intimate relationship when you're giving information such as tax information to a tax professional. So you want to make sure they're looking out on your best interest, you know, in terms of filing an honest and accurate return, that kind of a thing. So it really is a good point. If you're going to use a tax professional, about 55% do, so more than half of us use somebody else to prepare returns for us. Choose somebody who really will do a nice, good job for you and not leave you holding the bag after you have a inaccurate return, because then the IRS is going to say, hey, you signed this return, you're responsible. And then the bad guy who prepared it, maybe he's one of these ghost preparer kind of persons who holds up a shingle and then is gone. And then once we figure out that you've got an inaccurate return, we're coming after you in terms of what's on it and saying, hey, we want to talk about this. And that guy's gone. So you get the idea. You want to choose wisely.
And there's oftentimes free help, especially for filing electronically.
Yeah, free. 2 avenues are free. In the community, volunteer income tax assistance or tax counseling for the elderly, 2 separate programs. They're out in the community in physical locations between now all the way through mid-April. This is called VITA for short, and TCE. You can find one of these locations several ways. IRS.gov, the Franchise Tax Board has information. AARP is a big partner. 211, lots of community partners that we partner with, if you will, to provide these services. And how do you find one? It's out in the community, as I just mentioned, and it's $56,000 or less generally, and simpler returns. So these are volunteers that are trained, preparing returns for you. You want to make an appointment, call, find the site, make the appointment, sit down, bring all your information, and get a return done for free at a physical site. The other spot is on irs.gov, which is free file, and that's a private-public consortium or partnership with IRS, several software companies, and that's $69,000 or less. Use the software, which holds your hand all the way through it, and you can file a federal income tax return for free using Free File. So you have Free File, you have VITA, TCE, and those are really 2 important avenues of free, and both are lower to moderate income individuals and families, but man, they're there, and if you can take advantage of either service to get a return done, it's a good thing.
Money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, anything else, major changes this year we should be aware of, or have we hit the major
We
ones?
had some late legislation that brought back a couple of extenders, the tuition and fees, and then the medical deduction is 7.5% as opposed to 10% in terms of the AGI on your Schedule A. I know it's probably a little more jargon, but the bottom line, some people will understand what that is if they know taxes pretty well. But other than that, that major law from 2017 really changed things, and we're still dealing with that. And then finally, under no circumstances the IRS going to call you threatening arrest or a lawsuit or anything like that, having you pay immediate taxes you don't owe, and we're not sending you a random email, having you click on a link. Those are scammers using the IRS as a lure. Our general mode of business is a letter in the mail.
Okay, yeah, no, good to remind people, because this is that time of year that those tax scams we see are pretty prevalent. Rafael Tolino, as always, we appreciate the expertise and advice. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the beginning of the year is always a great time to reevaluate your finances and make some changes. So coming up, how you can best prepare for the tax filing season and how to get the most out of your tax refund. We'll be right back.